Give me knuckles, Coach.
Boom.
Let's get it rolling.
Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Sportswrap Sit Down. We are here in the beautiful practice facility, the Mitch, here on Old Dominion's campus. And we're sitting down with a very special guest. That would be a two-time WNBA champion, a women's basketball Hall of Famer. Shall I keep going with the laundry list of accolades?
Go ahead.
I know you're feeling yourself a little bit, right? As you
know.
should. It would be the Old Dominion women's basketball coach, Delisha Milton-Jones. Coach, when I saw you in the airport a week and a half ago in Dallas, I was coming back from vacation. You were coming back from recruiting.
Yes.
And when I saw you, I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to get you on the pod and talk to you. So first of all, how are you? How's everything going? How's recruiting? Overall, how is Delisha Milton-Jones?
Wow, I'm well. You know, when you saw me in the airport, I was a little frantic because there was a lot going on, delayed flights, canceled flights, and I happened to be lucky enough to get a seat on another airline. So I said, scrap my luggage. I'm getting on this plane because I got to get back to Norfolk.
Norfolk, Virginia.
Norfolk, Virginia, 757.
I know you recruit heavy in Texas.
Yeah.
And so you were looking to fill out your last roster spot of the team.
Yeah.
How has that been going? Are we there? What are we looking?
The roster is complete.
Good.
And I'm super happy about it. And as we speak, players are slowly matriculating into town. They're moving in right across the street in the village on our amazing campus. I'm super excited to get them in the weight room, on the court. We'll have our first team meeting on, Sunday.
Okay.
And then June 1st will be our first practice.
Nice.
So,
how does that excite you? And I want to dive into ODU a little bit later, but I just want to ask you this before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
How does that excite you when you go from, a team that played in the WNIT, they won a game, right, and then you say goodbye to a really important group, and now you start fresh? Does it feel fast when you just kind of have to hit the reset button hard?
It really does. You can't even expect the tempo and the speed. You can never adjust to it because it's just something that happens, and it's all predicated off of how well you're recruiting, how early you get them signed, how reinforced are the relationships that you built with these recruits for them to be comfortable enough to sign on the dotted line as quickly as possible. Once all of that is said and done, then now you're sitting in a situation where you're like, okay, I could breathe a little bit. The transfer portal window is closed. There's no more movement that can happen. We have our team.
Nice.
Yeah.
I want to touch on ODU a little bit later, but one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to get you on, I think congratulations is in order.
Okay.
I know it's the third time that you're going to be on the coaching staff for a Team USA squad for the FIBA AmeriCup that's coming up in Chile in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Talk to me about, as an assistant coach for Team USA, well, first of all, as a kid growing up with a basketball dream, now you're a three-time coaching staff Team USA member. As a kid, could you have ever imagined, ever?
Never in a million years, in a million lifetimes, would I have imagined that I would be in the moments that I've been in with USA basketball or basketball, period.
Yeah.
Finishing college in 97, I was blessed to be born when I was born because I had the choice of two leagues to choose from, the ABL, American Basketball League, and the WNBA.
Yeah.
I was able to start my pro career in the ABL, and then now fast forward 1998, I'm in my first world championship for USA Basketball in Germany. Won a gold medal there, and fast forward to now, my playing days are over, but here I am coaching professionally and representing our country. Such an amazing ride.
And six-time gold medalist, correct?
Yes, something like that.
Something like that. It's hard to keep track when you got so many, I guess.
Something like that.
When it comes to the coaching aspect of it, this time around when you get the phone call, what was that conversation like? Because that coaching staff is really well regarded. There's some legends, and you're among that list. What was that conversation like for this go-around?
When Brianna Weiss called me, I was thinking it was her just calling, because as a vet with USA Basketball, they'll lean on us for information and advice that can be impactful for the ones coming behind us. And when the conversation turned to, I spoke with the selection committee, the light bulb kind of went off in my head like, oh, this might be good.
Yeah.
And when she told me they selected me to be a coach, one of the assistant coaches, I was like, let's go. And it was rather touching because I didn't know if my time was up, because I had already participated as an assistant coach. I've been on numerous committees that have picked our last Olympic team, World Cup teams, university game. You name it, I've done it.
Yeah.
And working behind the scenes, you're thinking, you have your moment as an assistant coach. Where does this go from here?
Yeah.
And for her to make that call and let me know that I am the one that they chose for this moment, and it's a very important one, because if we don't go and accomplish the mission, then that can really affect how we are positioned for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked.
Well, and I know that with the AmeriCup, that comes with FIBA World Cup qualification
Yes.
implications. That comes with potential Olympic qualification
Yes.
implications.
Yes.
Right. And with the Olympics being on home soil in
Oh, my.
28, what's the biggest? Obviously, the mission is to qualify for that.
Yes, it is.
Right. With this upcoming group, what's the message to them?
The message to this group is you're laying a foundation. You're laying a foundation on top of a tremendous dynasty and legacy that's already been set.
Yeah.
But the other foundation, the layers within it that you're laying, is also for self. You know, you're young. You're vying for the opportunity to be able to call yourself an Olympian one day. And participating in these tournaments during these moments is something that is the proper steps that every player needs to take in order for them to be integrated into that USA basketball system. So for me, it's about one team, one country, one goal, and that's to win the gold medal. And no one should put themselves before the team, because although they all have resumes, they're all stars, they're making good money now
Yep.
with NIL deals, no one should think that they're bigger than the moment.
Yeah.
You're representing your country. You should have a certain amount of pride attached to it and how you show up every single day. So that's going to be the message.
Yeah, totally.
And to play some defense.
And
Yeah.
that's something you pride yourself on. I know that for a fact.
Yes.
So obviously, for someone who isn't totally familiar with AmeriCup and the formatting of it, obviously we're in the middle of the WNBA season right now. So for the people at home, what type of player personnel are we going to be seeing on the court?
Well, that's all to be determined when I
Right.
get to Colorado, June 16th. There'll be players that they have put in a pool. The committee has kind of mulled through who would be good players to vie for a spot on the team. Now, once those 20, 30 players get to camp in Colorado Springs, they're going to fight to death for an opportunity to be able to put on that red jersey. And that red jersey is something special because it represents the blood, the heartbeat of everything that makes USA Basketball, USA Basketball.
Yeah.
And when they get to that coveted moment, I'm sure they're going to feel accomplished. But we're not just looking for talent. We're looking for people that have been through the system, understand the rigors of USA Basketball, understand how you have to decrease self to increase country.
Yeah.
You know, you putting your country on the forefront. Then we also need individuals that are good people, because you're not going to take a knucklehead overseas with you, are you?
Right.
You know, where they may do something that is foul and goes against the merits of everything that we stand for with USA Basketball. We want people that are going to be like-minded in the business approach that we need for them to have, so we can go and accomplish the mission. We're
Yeah.
soldiers. We're soldiers. We may not carry an AK-47, but we're doing our best rendition of it with a round ball and a basket.
I love that. What's the difference between Delisha Milton-Jones, the USA Basketball player, and the USA Basketball coach?
I think the difference is that the player has allowed me to be more well-versed as a coach. I bring a different level of passion to this thing because I've laid it all out on the line.
Yeah.
I've made the necessary sacrifices where I had to sacrifice 4 years of my life for one moment. One moment. You know, all the qualifications, that's cute. We're supposed to win. We're supposed to be the ones that are hunted. And now that moment culminates to the Olympic Games, the gold medal game, and us winning that. So everything that I've been through as a player has really allowed me to have experiences that have really just transformed me mentally and emotionally in a different way, to where I can tell this story probably with a little bit more intimacy and passion attached to it than the average Joe.
Yeah. Old Dominion has a rich USA basketball history.
Yes.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring the fact that Ann Donovan was a coach,
Yes.
the coach, in
Yes.
2008 when they won the gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
How much pride do you take in the fact that Monarchs before you, legendary Monarchs before you, and now you're stepping into those similar roles?
I take a lot of pride. Even when I was going through the interview process to get this job and this opportunity back in 2020, right in the thick of COVID.
Yeah.
Man, knowing that my former teammate, internationally and domestically, Tisha Pinachero, played here, truly special.
Yeah.
Nancy Lieberman Klein. When I was in college, Nancy wrote an article on me saying the best player you never heard of. And that changed everything for the vantage point that people had on me and how they viewed me, and they needed to know who I was. And I was able to walk away with SEC Player of the Year, AP All-American, you name it, I did it. And I feel like that article Nancy wrote changed things. Then now when you look at Marianne Stanley, coached me in the WNBA, won 3 national championships here.
Yeah.
The connectivity is just wild. And then the cherry on top, Ann Donovan.
Yeah.
You know, may she rest peacefully in heaven.
Yep.
But she was my Olympic coach in 2008. And a story that no one really knows about, I remember getting a call from her when they were picking the team. And sometimes they give the head coach an opportunity when the committee can't really decide on who should be this 12th woman or not, then they'll allow the coach to kind of have a say in things. And I remember her calling me and said, hey, you know, it's you and another person, but I need to know, are you going to be okay being the 12th woman? Because I've had prior experiences before that one, and I've won gold medals, and so she's probably looking at me like I want to come in and I want to be the woman.
Yeah.
And I said, it's whatever it takes. I can be the 12th woman, and I'm happy with that. I'm fine, whatever you need from me. And that sealed the deal with my fate in terms of being able to participate in 2008 with her being my coach. So this full circle moment and that connectivity between all of those legends, not just at ODU, but within the game of the women's game period worldwide, is truly a prideful thing to represent.
So you gave me a lot to jump off there, and I appreciate all of that.
Yeah.
First thing I want to start off with is there were so many impactful Old Dominion Monarchs in your young playing career, whether
Yeah.
it was coach or Tisha, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you're here now, when there have been so many that have impacted you before you, is that not fate summed up?
I mean, it would have to be, you know? It definitely would have to be, because I think legends attract legends, winners attract winners. And I think Dr. Seelig, he's competitive in his own right. And whoever was going to be the next coach here to take the helm of this women's basketball program had to be someone that could represent all of that.
Yep.
The history, and then where we're trying to be in this moment and where we're trying to go in the future.
Yeah.
And I can see now why I was the candidate for the job. And when you look at some of the names that you can pan through history and call on, you can see how I fit in perfectly within all. I nestle in very nicely with all the achievements that they've had, all of the winning and success that has gone on. Then who better than me to get us to that next championship?
Yeah, and that's a good transition into Old Dominion basketball.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 7th winning season in a row for ODU women's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it interesting because I was having historical conversation because, you know, in the late 80s I wasn't alive, in the early 90s I wasn't alive for what many would consider one of the golden ages of Old Dominion women's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Their ability to recruit overseas was one of the things that really set them apart on the national stage.
Yeah.
And then once, you know, funding and those bigger schools started to get that and then really spread out
Yeah.
their scouting,
Yeah.
the gap closed.
Yes, it did.
And now Old Dominion is playing catch up,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
When you talk about this modern age of NIL and you talk about recruiting and going on the trail and how different it was from when you were coming up through Florida,
Mm-hmm.
is that a frustrating thing as a coach, knowing that a mid-major is automatically put at a disadvantage sometimes? What is that like?
It is. It's frustrating, but the beauty of it is our leadership here, from President Hemphill to Dr. Wood Seelig, they understand that it's imperative that they keep us competitive. And to do so, we have to have certain types of funding. So they support us when it comes to revenue sharing. They support us when it comes to speaking to the donors on our behalf so that they can donate to our NIL causes to give us that fighting chance that we deserve to have amongst the power fours of the world. A lot of mid-major coaches are nervous and frustrated in this moment because if you don't have the resources that the power fours have, you're behind.
Right.
If you don't have the money that the power fours have, or to some degree, some level of it, you're behind. You're not going to be able to get the talent. You're not. But what they've done for us is they have positioned us to be able to have facilities like this that is better than some Power 4 experiences that kids will have. Coaching staff that I can go out and hire that has pro experience. They could come here and learn from some of the game's best that have won championships that have internationally and domestically. And now they get that resource from us daily. And then you can also come here and you can win in terms of the financial side of things. You know, it's a good living for kids nowadays to be able to participate in the game of basketball. But one thing I never want them to lose sight of is you're still a student athlete.
Of course.
And you have to come here and you have to bleed Hudson blue. You have to have an affinity for that because this institution of higher learning is pouring themselves into your experience. So they have to give something back in return.
In that time period where Old Dominion was grabbing top-tier talent and making runs and winning national titles, right, there was something that made them stand out. Right, something that made them different than the rest of the teams in the field. What are you trying to do now to bring that feeling back of making Old Dominion different for people?
I think the thing that I'm trying to do now is to bring in talent. But it can't just be any type of talent that is unhinged. It has to be a type of talent that can perform and do well productivity-wise on the court, in the classroom, and in the community of the 757. We're looking for the total package when it comes to athlete. Because when you look at this institution, everything that it represents, we're a Research One institution now. With the tremendous merger that President Hemphill did with Centera at EVMS, that right there has raised the standard. It raised the bar in terms of how the world will see us. People are going to be attracted to come here. So I have to make sure that within our women's basketball program, we're bringing in quality individuals that can live up to that standard, if not supersede it.
Who have you leaned on when you took the job originally, and then now? Who have you leaned on the most?
Since I've been here, outside of ODU, my good friend, big sis, Dawn Staley.
Of course.
You know, she's someone I keep on speed dial, and I'll just hit her with the long text, Dawn, and she'll know, D, and I'm like, I'm calling you, I got some questions. And she'll be like, shoot, what you got? And I'll just rattle them off, and she'll give me her experiences with it. Never answer for me, but charge me to think and have a greater perspective. There's other individuals, former WNBA coaches that I can call on now that we're in this NIL world and you really have to run your program like a mini WNBA franchise. So I need general manager type mentality when it comes to the NIL perspective of things and how do you manage all of that when money is involved in the sport. And sometimes players may make more than coaches. Which is wild.
That is wild.
But I'm not new to it because that's what we experienced in the WNBA. Once the new collective bargaining agreement came about and players' salaries kind of jumped up and it was more than what some coaches were making, even in the NBA they experienced that to some degree. Now you understand how to handle that part of the journey that you're on, all because of the experiences I've had in playing in the WNBA and likewise.
So you're saying that adjustment wasn't as difficult for you as you maybe thought it would have been?
Correct. It was not, because while I'm looking at all this new information, literature and rules and addendums and things that are pending, I had to kind of turn my head to the side a little bit and give it a different view, because I said something about this is familiar.
Yeah.
And when I really stepped back and looked at it holistically, I said, oh, this is me. This is me as a pro. I experienced this for 17 years. This is free agency. That's all that this is. And now that I have that understanding of it, I know how to maneuver through it probably a little easier than some of my counterparts that have to play catch up with that knowledge.
So is that how you relay it then to your players? Like, you are free agents, negotiate and try to work your deals, and this is a team, a WNBA team pretty much.
Well, I let them know that, number one, even before NIL came about, because all that I have in me is pro experience,
Yeah.
you're going to get a pro experience within this environment. So we already conduct ourselves like a mini WNBA franchise anyway, because they want to go pro, so you're going to get that experience here from pros that have done it.
Yeah.
So now that the NIL has come into play, the conversation still is the same, but I still try to keep it confined to a certain style of thought processes they need to have.
Yeah.
Number one, yes, while it may feel like free agency, you're still a student athlete, and the degree still matters. And while everyone has their hand out saying, how much you got, give me more, and they're trying to barter each other against each other, against institutions against each other, we have to make them take pause for a minute and say, hey, look, don't forget about what it actually costs for us to educate you.
Yeah.
Because the new pandemic that we're going to see is a lot of players walking around with nice chunks of change in their pocket, but no degrees.
Right.
And we don't want that, because this was supposed to be an educational system that athletes or students that could perform well on the court should have an opportunity to win a free education from an institution and be able to further their careers. So when we speak to them, we speak wholeheartedly with them, and we give them the truth, and we challenge their perspective, and we want them to think different from anyone else that may be their age group going through that same process.
And it's interesting that you bring that point up, because, you talked about mini WNBA franchise. Well, obviously playing on a professional level, you didn't have to worry about that academia.
No.
Like college students have to now.
Right.
Do you feel like the landscape as a whole, particular programs like yours, Coach Staley's, I'm sure a lot of other Power 4 and mid-major programs in the country are so, emphasis heavy on that academia portion. Do you feel like, though, as a whole, college sports has gone so far away into just, athlete first, payment first? You're seeing it on the college football landscape. There was the quarterback at Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava, wanted $2 million out of Tennessee, left, didn't show up to camp. Now he's at UCLA and he's making less projected, right? So do you feel like we've strayed a little too far, and what's that medium point if we have?
I do, but when you're doing something new for the first time, the pendulum has to swing, right? And sometimes it swings hard from one extreme to the other. But like in all things, just like water, it's going to always find its balance. And I feel like the pendulum is going to swing back, and it's going to find its balance. And we'll get back to the root of it all. That's why the conversations that we're having with our athletes is important for them to understand. You can go and chase a bag all you want, but what's more lucrative for you, to get the bag and the degree, or just to leave with the bag? Go ahead and get bang for your buck. If coaches aren't speaking to you in those terms, then they just see you as a product. But we see you as a person here, and that matters. We have a 100% graduation rate, and I am so proud of that, because the ball will go flat one day. And for some, sooner rather than later, because we know the statistics, it's like less than 1% that make it pro.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me everybody's around here hopping, university hopping, like some of them bar hop, and they're going to leave here in 4 years and have good money but no education?
Right.
You're going to have to use your money to get the education, because you need the degree to be able to get in the working world anyway, because it's a prerequisite. It's part of the process. So while it may be fun and games now, you still have to plan properly for the future.
When it comes to a player that has jumped around, I don't want to dive too deep into the recruiting weeds, but does that ever deter you as someone who's looking into a player, when you see somebody, 1 stop, 2 stop, 3 stop, and then maybe they're a senior or a grad student and they've had 3 or 4 stops and now they want to come to ODU.
Yeah, it definitely is a red flag. But listen, I'm not crazy either. If they could put that ball in that hole,
You can hoop, you can hoop.
you know what I'm saying? We could talk about some things.
Yeah.
But yes, it does bring pause, and I think it's necessary to have the conversation, to ask the questions. Tell me about your journey, each stop, and why.
Yeah.
Was it your choice or was it the coaches? And we work through all of that, and I get their side, I get the coach's side, if I choose to speak with them or not, and we go from there.
Shining moment so far at ODU, your favorite?
Shining moment at ODU. I would say, having postseason play, that's always a shining moment because that's what you fight for. You want all your athletes and coaches to be able to have that opportunity to be playing in March. Is it the tournament that we would ultimately want to be playing in? No, but it is a building block. History has shown that when you can play in the WNIT and you can slowly inch your way up to semifinals championship level, then that means that you're one step away from making the big dance. So those would be my proudest moments.
Delisha Milton-Jones, I got 2 more. Delisha Milton-Jones as a coach, pregame routine.
My pregame routine. I'm going to take a nap, probably 30-minute quick little nap, because I need to just calm all systems because the player in me is still alive and well, and she gets so worked up, and I'm thinking of all the possibilities, and I have to just shut everything down and say, just stop, trust your gut, because my gut never leads me wrong. The same instincts I used on the court, I use it now on the sidelines with my gut. So I'll take a nap, and then I'll get up and I'll eat a quick bite to eat. I don't want to have too much on my stomach, same way I did as a player. I don't want to have that on my stomach as a coach. I'll get to the gym about an hour and a half before the game. I'll play my gospel music, blasting it, and I'll go in right on the board. And I love praying, so I'll go in and pray over every player's uniform, their phones, because I don't want them to get bad news before the game that can affect this moment. And I just sit back in my room, wait for the coaches to come in, and I love the sounds of the game. When the players come back into the locker room, our coaching lounge is kind of connected to theirs, to where you can kind of hear the music more than anything. And I love hearing the roars of laughter, or they're all in there singing the same hook on a Sexy Red or Glorilla song, and just enjoying that energy behind it all, and reminiscing at the same time, saying, man, I hope that they're feeling any level of what I felt as a player, because if they are, they're going to remember these moments more than anything.
Last one. In the pig rematch, how badly am I beating you?
That would be a negative.
For the context.
Roll that footage back so y'all can see it was no competition.
I've been working on my shot. No, I have not.
He lying.
I am lying. And on that note, Delisha Milton-Jones, been a pleasure. Thank you so much for hopping on the pod.
You're my boy.
When are you leaving for Chile and Colorado?
Yeah, June 16th, leaving for Colorado Springs. We'll be there for about 2 weeks. And then after that, we'll be leaving about the end of June, maybe the 1st of July, to head on out to go and compete in Chile.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to track it all. Yes, track it all. USA basketball coach, champ, Hall of Famer, All-Star, gold medalist. List goes on and on. Delisha Milton-Jones. Thanks so much for the time. James Catato checking in. Sportswrap Sit Down. See you on the next one.